then, lads, welcome back to Kosi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Super Arsenal podcast. And I have a very, very special one today. Mathew, a big Arsenal fan, and of course, a big content creator on YouTube as well. We'll be getting his channel, links in the video description, and of course in the video title. Make sure you do check him out. He really creates a podcast that I love, the Top Six. Talks about the top six, and basically, I do love talking about the top six because the drama doesn't seem to end. They're changing. I think for the past decade, we've had the top four now, which is the top six in the past half a decade. So a lot of talk on his channel about that. And so please make sure you do check it out. Link is in the video description and in the title as well. But today we're gonna speak about Mikel Arteta, 100 games, possible new contract. Does he deserve it? He's won more games than Arsene Wenger. Will he be that man that replaces Arsene Wenger probably in the long term? All that is going to be brought to you in this episode of the Super Arsenal podcast. So make sure you do, get involved, subscribe, like, and drop your thoughts in the comment section. The question is, do you think Mikel Arteta needs a new contract? But before that, let Mathew introduce himself. Mathew, just a word.
Brilliant, man. Thanks, Kosi, for having me on the show. Really excited about making an appearance here. Of course, you did manage to make an appearance on my channel, Top 6 Fan TV, and it was really great to have you on. I'm excited to be here. Obviously, an Arsenal fan, as you can see with my jersey and a little bit in the background for the greater part of 20 years. So I'm enjoying it, the highs and lows, but it also teaches you to be extremely resilient with a lot of the lows in recent times.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to being a regular there, by the way, on your channel, and I'm looking forward to you guys to you being a regular here. So probably whenever you feel free, whenever you have time, this is home. This is a voice for the Arsenal fans. Just make sure that anything you want to say about the club, anything you want to react to, just give me a WhatsApp call, just give me a call, and then I'll give you space because that is what I want to do with this podcast.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, let's get to it because look, Mikel Arteta criticized for a very long time by fans like me. We've spoken about the highs, we've spoken about the lows, but he's had a very huge milestone in his career as a manager. He's never been a manager anywhere else apart from Arsenal, and look, there is a big debate there that we're gonna dive into with Mathew, but. First and foremost, Mathew, 100 games for Mikel Arteta. Did you expect him to come this far?
Absolutely not,
Yeah.
especially after the first 3 games of the season. I was absolutely, disappointed with the run of form that he had put together through the team. It actually, lacked an identity with regards to the attacking play, and the defense was a shambles, obviously, because we had several first-team defensive players injured. And for me, it didn't look like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. But what has happened is he has come through and turned it around. If you look at it in the last 10 games, the Arsenal are unbeaten with 7 clean sheets. Would you believe it? Our defense is really holding it together. The
Yeah.
defense of
Incredible. That's the word.
Gabriel, Ben White. Yeah, fantastic. Ben White and Super Tomiyasu, as some of us do call him. And within the league, we're 8 games unbeaten. So that just shows you that he's come across a formula that seems to be working for him. I think there's a lot of try and error, but there's certain things that have been a catalyst. Obviously, his signings coming in and coming back from the injury table, as well as Lacazette coming in, I think has given more balance to his attack than he previously did, and we can see that in his results.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm one person as well that never expected Mikel to come this far. Actually, I was calling for him to be sacked when we failed to beat Villarreal, when we failed to go past Villarreal. And the reason, my reasons were actually very valid because I thought there was no heart in those performances. There was no ambition in those performances. But I think he's trying to prove us, many of us, wrong, especially that now he's building his own team. And, his signings are doing well, building his own philosophy, and things like that. But let's first get to it. Look, this is what he's done. This is what he's supposed he's managed to do in his 100 games. And later we shall bring in the Arsene Wenger debate. But 100 games, Mikel Arteta, 54 wins, 20 draws, and 26 defeats. That is his first 100 games. Are you impressed? Do you think he's done well? Probably. I mean, according to the figures, the numbers.
Well, yeah, to a certain extent, I would say he had a very positive start and positive impact when he came in.
Mm,
And with the whole mentality, he realized that there was a need to have a shift in the mentality of the Arsenal players, really the dressing room. Had gotten accustomed to sort of laid back mentality, and he was very clear from the onset that that needed to change. That positivity led to an FA Cup win and a Community Shield win, which was hugely encouraging. And we, as the Arsenal faithful, thought that we found our manager. This is going to be the coup of the season with regards to the managers who are out there for the amount that they got him for. Obviously a novice, there was still some concerns around him being a novice, having not previously managed any club before being a number two at Manchester City and Pep Guardiola, and we saw the cracks start to widen, especially at the beginning of last season, the 2019 2020-21 season, really, where after that first game versus Fulham that we won, I think it was a 3-0, 3-1, where Willian put in a couple of assists, and he was playing like Maradona in that game. After that, we all know what happened. Willian went downhill. His true age was revealed. Some
did
say,
bounce back.
others
Yeah.
say, yeah, his mandate as a spy for Chelsea checked in, and hence his performances dipped. But that coincided with a poor run of form in that period. I mean, it was just a shambles. Mikel Arteta was trying all sorts of things. That obviously there was that issue around us not having a creative spark. Our number 10 was inexistent because at the time Mesut Ozil was actually being benched. He was benched for most of that time. And I think that was a political
Actually,
decision that came up from
actually, he left him
yeah.
out of the squad. To be
Yes.
precise, he left him out of the squad.
Yeah, yeah, and of course he took the fall for that. He said, "No, that's my decision." But of course, a lot of us knew that that was a decision coming, being hugely influenced by the board. Ozil had fallen out with the board of the leadership of the club on a few things in the summer, refusing to take a pay cut, going on to a PR campaign that was countering the decisions of the board. So that there was just a lot of negative energy, and that resulted in several losses, which I think, for me, I believe is the chunk of those 26 defeats was actually the first part of last season. Now, come December, he started turning it around. Introduction of Emil Smith Rowe, starting to bear fruit. Aubameyang returning and chipping in with a few goals here and there. He didn't have a good season, so to speak. But overall, I would say, based on the last 10 games, I am impressed. I think he's started to put together. He's locked the back up, so defensive solidity is key. The midfield certainly has more balance with Thomas Partey in it, and much to the chagrin of a lot of Arsenal fans, despite him keeping the likes of Granit Xhaka, we did see a positive contribution from Xhaka before he got injured
Yeah.
in the
In the
Spurs
Spurs game,
game.
he was
Um,
absolutely brilliant, by the way, in that Spurs game.
yes, Yes,
Yeah.
so Xhaka playing on the left side of a double pivot with Thomas Partey, we have seen what they can do. They actually very influential in winning midfield battles in there, and of course Sambi Lokonga has come in and deputized quite effectively, and we did see, of course, Maitland-Niles putting in a commendable performance in the last game as well within that midfield. So it does look like he has options. His team has balance. His bench actually now looks strong because if you notice, Odegaard is starting off the bench. Pepe is starting off the bench.
Martinelli as
From
well.
attacking, Martinelli as well. So from an attacking point of view, we're actually not thin. I would argue we even have a stronger bench than Liverpool does. So it's going to be interesting. So I think if he can sustain that, for me, the big test is going to be the Liverpool match.
Yeah.
If he can sustain, and it's going to be, a lot of Arsenal fans have been talking about, from his performance the last 10 games, 8 wins in the league, or rather 8 games unbeaten in the league, with a number of clean sheets. A lot of people have been talking about this being a pass game. Ideally, that even if he loses it, that is fine as long as we keep up the momentum after that. But I think that is too much respect for Liverpool. I think Liverpool are wounded right now, and the fact that they will be coming back after international break is actually a plus for us. Although we also have a number of players out, but remember they have to think about the Champions League game that will follow that week. I believe so. I think this is the right time to play Liverpool. They are in a little bit of a bad spell. If we put in a great performance, depending on whether Thomas Partey is in, I think we can actually nick a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we'll get into that, but look, I'm gonna. I've said this before, and people looked like said because you're a little bit lenient with Arteta and you're not strong with the Arteta out, point, which you always echo, but. I say this, and that for me, it doesn't take anything away from my opinion. I felt like Arsenal should have gotten a better manager. Uh, Someone with experience. I would have done a Brendan Rodgers. I would have done a Marcelo Bielsa. I would have gone for that. But the fact that he's come in at a time where being an Arsenal manager is the worst job in the world. Because for me, when he came in, Unai Emery, who was not really, really well backed, had left the club in an absolute mess. Very, very, in a very poor position. We were conceding a lot. We only had one goal source, by the way. Many people think, oh, we were scoring goals, but it was only Aubameyang who was scoring goals, in that team. And as soon as these goals dried up, you can now see there is nothing like, goals at us. They're really coming seldom by. But he's coming at a time when you feel like to take an Arsenal job is a suicide mission, right? And especially for a novice who's been under Pep, right? But he's not been tested. He's as raw as anything you can even, as you can imagine. Do you think he deserves way better credit, like us, the fans, or more than the fans and the media, mainstream media, are actually giving him? Because he's coming, inherited a group of players that are lazy, inherited a group of players that have a very poor mentality, the likes of Kolasinac, the likes of Rob Holding. They have hit their ceiling. Elneny, they have already hit their ceiling, and we are asking him to take them to top four. Yet they've been 3 years out of the top four before his arrival. Do you think he deserves more? Maybe more credit, maybe more respect, from the fans, from the fan base and the media.
Yeah, I certainly believe that he does deserve a bit more credibility. Obviously, his experience has showed quite a bit in the last 12 months or so, if I may call it that, the last 12 months. And that has resulted in a loss of trust or an erosion of trust in the fans, from the fans. And I believe that he will actually be a lot better as we go along, if he manages to keep up with this sort of formula with regards to the formation that he has found. In my view, I think he has been trying out stuff, try and error, really, with regards to our formations, our style of play, trying to find the right balance. Now, I feel that he has stumbled upon that formation that will give us a bit of balance, especially with Emil Smith Rowe's emergence. I know, a lot of people talk about Bukayo Saka, and Bukayo Saka is fantastic. Has always been carried us for most of last season, really, and and part of the season before the second half of it when he broke through. But I believe the emergence of Smith Rowe has been pivotal in two ways. One, at the back, and it has been pivotal in saving Arteta's job. One, after the first half of last season, when we had a horrible last season, you do recall we played Chelsea just at the turn of the new year. I believe if we had lost that game, Arteta, yes, towards the end of the year. If we had lost that game, I think Arteta was going to be on his way out, to be honest. There was going to be too much pressure on him. But what happens? He brings in Smith Rowe from the academy, from the under 21s, to provide a bit of spark. So he changed a few things up, right? He changed a few things up, and what happened? We did start to see creative spark in the team that had been missing. We hadn't witnessed that since the days Ozil was really at his prime, and he started carrying the team forward with his energy. Of course, that slowed down towards the back end of the season. But what the second point at which Emil Smith Rowe has actually saved or Arteta's job is currently, if you notice it from the Spurs game, especially from the Spurs game, I think he did play quite well in the games before that, Burnley and Norwich. But I believe from the Spurs game, he has really come to life. And what that has done as well is that it has given it has improved the balance of attack for our midfield and has given Arteta the courage to bench Pepe, who I believe has been hugely ineffective on the right, and given the opportunity for Saka to play on the right, which is where he thrives the most. I think out of his many positions on the left wing, left back, and whatnot, he's a very dynamic player, but he thrives, and we have seen Gareth Southgate use him for England to great effect in that role. Now he's playing that role for Arsenal. We have Smith Rowe, who's now cemented his place on the left in there of that attack, and then you have Lacazette playing as more or less almost like a false nine to come in, hold that ball, and be able to link up well with Aubameyang in the attack. And we're seeing a fluid, cohesive front four playing and causing teams a lot of issues. And because of that, I believe Emil Smith Rowe has been very pivotal to Arteta remaining. But further to your question about whether he deserves respect, I think he does now deserve respect because as also part of the Arteta out team. I was sitting a bit on the fence, but I was more Arteta out because I wanted someone more experienced, obviously with the likes of Antonio Conte, who was still out there, Eric Ten Hag. I felt that we needed coaches like that who could take us to the next level. But I believe he has shown a lot of what does Diego Simeone call it? A lot of cojones, bravery in being able to drop the likes of Odegaard, being able to drop the likes of Pepe. To enable balance within that midfield, and also being able to another positive one was or another brave move was also being able to drop Leno, who's a Germany number 2, obviously hugely experienced goalkeeper, never been relegated. In comes this young man, Aaron Ramsdale, been relegated with 2 teams twice from the Premier League. Great shortstopper, but we wanted to see what he could do, and he has just been a revelation as well. His distribution, his saves, getting plaudits from the likes of David Seaman and Peter Schmeichel. So, yeah, I think his bravery in making those decisions, and actually, in the last few games, we have seen consistency, picking the same 11, more or less for the last
it was a big problem
games.
last season, wasn't it? Big problem last season. Yeah, absolutely. But look, one thing I'm gonna say about Mikel and why I think he deserves the respect now is I feel like he's become a little bit more mature than he was. I think he started putting down his ego. When people call for players like Smith Rowe to start ahead of Pepe, he does that. Ramsdale, I mean, that is a brave decision to drop Leno, like you've said, and also the fact that the decisions he's making these days, and I feel like, wow, that's a great decision. It's the right call. Like bringing back Alexander Lacazette into the starting 11 and dropping Odegaard. Odegaard is this signing, is a new signing. Last season, it's the same situation that happened with Willian. He kept Willian starting over Pepe because Pepe was doing so well in the Europa League last season, but he kept on playing Willian in the Premier League. And for me, it was more of his ego. I brought in Willian. He will play. He will work until things actually didn't work out. Do you think he's become more mature? Do you think he's now a little bit more logical than emotional? In his decision making.
Yeah, I think so to a certain extent because like you said, when he came I believe his ego was quite big. He looked to implement, a lot more of the control that Pep Guardiola had over his squad. But Pep Guardiola can obviously command that, multiple league winner, Champions League winner, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to egos, when he steps into that dressing room, no one is above him. Um, Mikel Arteta, on the other hand, who hadn't managed, hadn't won anything, I think felt he needed to impose himself and his authority on the squad, and that's why you saw him falling out with people like Guendouzi. Especially that incident at Brighton where he clashed with Mope, and thereafter refused to apologize and whatnot. And all of a sudden he was out. We saw that with Ozil as well. So he obviously got negative press for those reactions, and people felt he started to have favorites as well. He was inconsistent with his behavior, being harsh on some and being it was quite hard when Pepe received a red card. I think last season he was benched and whatnot, but Xhaka got a red card, came back, and Xhaka was straight into the team, and yet many felt Xhaka was not being as impactful progressively, from an attack point of view, or from a results point of view, compared to Pepe the last season. This season, I think he has had more of a balanced approach. I think we're seeing a Pepe who is learning and transitioning on the job, and if he can blend, because as much as we say he's a student of Pepe's, of Pep Guardiola, we do see that he also has sort of more pragmatic defensive approach to his style, right? Because otherwise you would see Arsenal playing a 4-3-3, right, with all those fluid attacking midfielders that actually Wenger had more at his disposal. If you remember, at the time he had Cazorla, Rosicky,
Ramsey,
the likes of
Wilshere.
Ozil, Ramsey, exactly. So you would argue that Wenger had a midfield that was a lot more technically gifted and comparable to the current Man City midfield. Arteta doesn't have that. Arteta doesn't have that at all. What he has are more direct players. You'd say Odegaard is maybe the one who comes closer, but again, you cannot compare it to that to those two teams, the Man City of now and the last the Arsenal squads of the last two seasons of Arsene Wenger. But we do see a more pragmatic defensive style that we see with him. He likes to be a lot more organized with defense, keep the ball, don't lose the ball, while also trying to press out and play out from the back. And now that he has the likes of Ben White, Ramsdale in defense, who can actually start to play it out from the back, and more solidity with the likes of Gabriel and Tomiyasu especially, you do see. And another one where he's actually been very brave is on the left, Tavares starting ahead of Kieran Tierney in the last game. That was a surprise for a number of people, but not a shock. And a lot of fans, you didn't see uproar from fans because Tavares is just something else. He's a guy on steroids. I mean, he's bombing down that left wing, giving us a lot more directness and causing opposing defenses a lot of trouble. So I do think Arteta does deserve the respect for being brave in that manner. I do. I think admire that he's stepping out into his own way, into his own self, his own kind of manager. As a result of that, because like I said, we would have seen him just copying and pasting a 4-3-3. But he did start, and it started from when he joined. Trying to adapt to the players that he had to frustrate teams, and it worked, especially against the big four teams that we hadn't been beating up on at some time. Playing a 3-5-2 formation, that's what won us the FA Cup, that's what won us the Community Shield. But of course, it was thrown out and seen more as a formation to win cup games. But credit goes to him, and I think he has bought himself time. At least he has bought himself the season. And you could argue he has bought himself next season as well, because depending on this season, depending on this season and how we finish, hopefully we'll finish in the. I don't want to get carried away. So I've had some Arsenal fans singing, we should challenge for the league because we are just a few points of Chelsea at the top. But I think really we should aim for sixth place. As a bare minimum, sixth place as a bare minimum. If fourth place can come in as a result of Man United's confusion, Ole in, long may Ole at the whale continue, because it's our chance right now. And if we can get that fourth place, sneak it in, that would be a fantastic season. If not, top six plus one of the cups, or I would even say two of them, because I think we have a very good chance in the League Cup the Carabao Cup to finally bring that home.
Yeah, by the way, one cup that we've not won, in a very, very, very long time. I think in the past around 10 to 15 years, we played one final and we lost it. Was it against Birmingham?
Birmingham, yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I think it
Birmingham.
was against
Birmingham.
Birmingham. But look, no, the big question
No,
now is,
actually, it was Portsmouth.
was it
Portsmouth. Harry
Portsmouth?
Redknapp there. Yeah, I
Mm,
remember
yeah,
that when we lost that
yeah, yeah,
game. Yeah.
yeah. So the big question now is, he's gone 10 games unbeaten in all competitions, eight at home in the league, which is absolutely brilliant. But so the big question is, has he turned the corner? Is it, is this some sort of performance where he's played? Because I think, look, he's beaten Watford, he's beaten Norwich, he's beaten uh, Burnley. Of course, I do respect Burnley this season. They have a point against Chelsea. He's beaten Leicester City. You respect them, especially at the King Power. They got 3 points against Manchester United. I thumped them 4-2. But Aston Villa struggling. Crystal Palace, they come at the Emirates Stadium, got a point. Do you think I stand the corner? And are you sure now that even if we play West Ham, we shall show the same character, we shall show the same agility, we shall show the same ability, we shall give them the same amount of trouble we've been giving these other sides? Or do you still are you still skeptical that we played some run of easy games here and there, and collected a couple of points? Because if you look at our upcoming fixtures, you have Liverpool, you have Newcastle, you have Manchester United, Everton, West Ham, Southampton. December is really going to be action packed with different difficult games. So, uh, are you are you secure? Are you secure with him being in the job? Do you think he's built something that can, go out there on the road at any stadium, Goodson Park, at the London Stadium, and get points? Or are you still that skeptical?
Well, Kosi, I'm not entirely convinced, about him, being able to win us the league, or a Champions League, a trophy at that. I think that he's going to lay the foundation for that. But
Yeah,
I do
that is
see,
far away.
yeah, yeah, I see. I think he's going to lay the foundation for that, but I do see positive shoots in what he's trying to do. And you're right to some extent. The games he has played are more or less against minnows, but you have to also give credit, to the likes of Burnley, to the likes of
Leicester.
Crystal Palace. Yes, to the likes of Leicester have been on and off, but the likes of Brentford, although they have cooled down quite a bit, because you've seen even the other teams that are playing them are starting to realize that, hey, Crystal Palace is not a joke, Brentford is not a joke. We have to be better prepared for them. So I do believe that he is going to be able to see out this season, just because on the back of these last 10 games, unless he goes on an unbelievable 50, 10, I think it will take like 15 games, uh well, not 15 games straight losses, but let's say 10 games straight losses for Arteta to be sacked. But because of the sheer momentum he has built, you somehow see that as not being possible, because of, unless he really gets an injury crisis and all things are not going well for him, which was what it was at the beginning of the season. I doubt that will replicate itself. So I think the test is going to now come in the next round of fixtures. Just like you've called out, all those teams you're calling out are actually going to be very good tests for us. Liverpool, West Ham, even Southampton, because Southampton are on a very good run. Actually, people don't realize it, but they're on a very good run with Hasenhuttl there. Very solid defensively, and they can be a problem. So
Yeah,
I
I think
think how we get out of,
their
yeah,
problems have been scoring. I think that's the problem. I mean,
yeah.
their twin is actually been has not clicked. They're using two strikers, and I feel like
Mm.
that system needs a very, very good partnership. But look, I give them respect. I do respect them. I'll never go to Southampton feeling like it's an easy win.
Yeah, and you of course can't put it past Mr. Theo Walcott. trying to get, he always gets either an assist or nicks in a goal against us. Uh, there's something about going and playing the old boys. Yeah, so I do believe that he's going to be able to see the season out. Where we will finish, I think for me, is going to be determined by where we're sitting come 1st of January, because I believe the games that we're going to play for the rest of November and December are going to be pivotal in really identifying what potential Mikel Arteta has with regards to how high we can finish.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm one of those people that are still very skeptical about saying that he's turned the corner because, look, the Premier League is not an easy league. You can easily go 5 games without a win. We saw that with City last season. They started. Did they go 5? Did they go around 4? They had a very, very poor start to the season,
Mm,
and eventually, because they have the squad, they have the squad depth, they have the quality, and the manager, they turn things around and won the league. But for us, no. I mean, look, December 8 games that are coming in thick and fast. Actually, I think in December we are playing 2 games per week, aren't we? 8 games, in between there. So it's really
yeah.
going to be very hectic. And I really pray for Mikel that he can find ways of getting over this. But let's talk about then the policy backing and the transfers that that he has made and the promises that they have made to back him. They've already given him 156 million plus more. I think part if you add part there, they've given him more than more than 200 million to spend
Mm,
in his tenure. So one, we have gone back to a place where we were before, bringing young players, and we did this really perfect well under Arsene Wenger, bringing young players,
mm,
develop them, and try to create something special with them. With Wenger, it never happened because whenever he tried to build a team, he sold it off. We sold it off,
mm,
right? Whether
mm.
that was his fault or trying to build a stadium. I mean, politics is politics, and I don't want to go into the politics of football. But do you think with Mikel it's gonna be a little bit different because now he has around 9 under 23 players that are developing well, that are doing well at the moment? In the next 2 years, do you think Arsenal could be now challenging, at least for genuinely challenging for the Europa League, at least?
Yeah, I think for the Europa League within the next 3 years, I think 3 years is a bit of a stretch. I think it is possible within the next 2 years that we will be able to challenge for the Europa League, because if you look at where we finished last season in the Europa League specifically,
Semi-final, yeah.
getting out, was it the quarters or the semis against Villarreal? I think
Semi-finals,
it was
semi-finals, yeah.
it was semi-finals, yeah, semi-finals. So we were more or less one game short, and we feel, just like you said, you were calling for his head after that game. We felt that that tournament was winnable. We're actually looking at a final with Manchester United, and although they were in a good run of form, we were positive that we could nick that one and gain entry to the Champions League. But unfortunately, we lost that. Now the team that he has currently is a lot stronger than the one that played in those 2 legs against Villarreal. With regards to its balance in defense, its balance in midfield, its balance in attack on current form. So and because you touched on his signings. I think his signings, if you notice that, were giving him and mostly Edu a lot of grief. I mean, you were here doing. I remember Kosi. I was watching a few of your transfer daily specials, and throughout that time, you'd see that there's a period there where we hadn't yet signed a few players, and Edu was on holiday. And I was like, his technical director was going on holiday
Yeah,
during the summer transfer window.
I was absolutely mad. I was absolutely mad because we
Yes.
had we were coming back. We were coming back from we're coming from a from a very very poor season, and I thought that our transfers were going to be logical, but also we needed some reaction. I thought in the first
Yeah.
2 months. At least getting some 3 players, and of course, when I saw the quality of players that we were bringing in, as also skeptical and really, really. And I gave Edu a lot of stick. Maybe we'll talk about him probably
Mm.
for 2 minutes and give him some credit if he deserves it.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the point that I was going to raise, because Edu specifically was getting a lot of stick, but I believe him and Mikel Arteta worked together to bring in what Arsenal needed. not what the fans wanted, because it's very easy to get carried away as fans and say, oh, would have wanted, Jack Grealish to come in, or Emi Buendia, or even
Joaquin
Yves
Correa,
Bissouma
or
from,
yeah,
yes, is Joaquin Correa,
Renato
or Yves
Sanchez,
Bissouma from, yeah,
Madison.
Renato Sanchez. Yeah, who had just come off a great Euros. And if you look at the signings and the share value, I mean, if I just combine what Gabriel, and obviously Gabriel came in the previous season, but Ben White coming for £50 million, a lot of us were skeptical about that. We felt that he had overpaid for that.
Yeah,
Ramsdale coming in for,
especially Manchester United getting Rafa Varane for almost way cheaper than that.
yeah, £40 million, right? And if you look at just Harry Maguire's valuation at £80 million, Ben White and Gabriel are probably worth that £80 million based on their transfer values, but they bring us more. They bring us more. You could argue that our defense is a lot more stable than Manchester United's is. Tomiyasu was a steal at like what, £7 million or something, some ridiculous amount. No, that was Tavares. I think Tomiyasu
Tavares,
came in at about
Tavares 8, Tomiyasu 18.
yes, Tomiyasu was about 18. But you do see that the team that is carrying him, or rather the players that have actually given Arsenal great balance and solidity, and spirit as well. If you notice, because that dressing room has a lot more spirit. I believe the Helen boys, the likes of Smith Rowe, the likes of Bukayo Saka, understand what it means to play for Arsenal, and so they're always reacting in the manner that you expect when we're especially when we're winning against teams like Spurs. But I do believe the likes of Aaron Ramsey, who's an Arsenal fan, in addition to what he brings to the team from a goalkeeping perspective, his distribution, you see how he's very commanding of his presence, holding his defenders to account, yelling at them whenever they miss out, or they consider short, even if it has not gone in. So you do see that Ramsdale, the back four, those are his players. Lokonga is playing now. Those are the players he brought in the summer transfer window that we're all questioning. Odegaard, of course, is the only one who you'd say has dropped to the bench. But what we have seen is he has built a spine now. He has built a spine now, and it only becomes easier to now add stardust to it, right?
Yeah,
What do I mean? From the transfer windows that are coming up, he now has the luxury to go in and spend a lot more, let's say £80 million, on a player
on one
that
player.
is going to be able to unlock defenses,
Yeah, on one
right?
player.
A more attacking, either midfielder or even a striker. Because let's face it, Aubameyang and Laka are, in the evening of their careers. Lacazette is in the last year of his contract. I am in favor of him having an extension of like 2 years, but I do believe the
I'm
likes
known.
of I mean that's a debate for that. But I think of course some teams from Italy will come in for him, even for Aubameyang. By the way, I have a feeling, because Aubameyang has Italian roots, in his blood. There is a possibility, if like an Inter Milan or AC Milan or Juventus or even a Napoli came in for Aubameyang in his last year, the last year of his contract, Arsenal would probably take that money. So we do have to replace one, if not both strikers. We do have, I think there's room to give Odegaard even more competition within
Yeah,
that midfield as a creative force. I feel Smith Rowe and Saka are more or less at this level indispensable, but there will come a time when they get injured. So I think from on the attacking third, we're quite light. We're quite light. The age of the front two strikers, and then will mean they might get a few injuries. And then what happens when Smith Rowe specifically? I think Saka we can survive without, but Smith Rowe, what happens when they're out? We need someone who's competitive, who can come in and especially someone who can unlock defenses with that pass. Because I feel when we play compact teams, we get bullied a bit, and then what happens is that we start playing sideways, horizontal passes. We can't break through the channels, and then it becomes a problem. So you need that kind of Ozil-esque player who will find that one pass throughout the game that can change things. So yeah, I think the team is setting up quite nicely for him to build on.
yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna ask you this question, and look, it's a question I've asked myself and tried to work it out, and I don't know. At times it could be biased, but out of the 20 managers, now that of course now Steven George is at Aston Villa. Do we have any other new managers that I mean apart from Norwich who have
Steven Gerrard, Aston Villa, Eddie Howe,
yeah, Ed
Newcastle,
Howe actually. Yeah, I
Norwich
was
have
going to
yet to
say yeah,
announce.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Norwich are yet to announce. Do you think they take Lampard? I think probably.
probably that would be a good one.
Yeah, that
Remember, we have Antonio Conte at Spurs.
yeah, actually Conte as well.
So,
So with Conte
yeah.
coming in, Graham Potter, Brighton, Marcel Bielsa Leeds, um, Pep, Klopp, Solskjaer. Where would you rate him? Where would you, if you're ranking first to 20? Where would you put him probably among the managers in the Premier League?
Arteta, with regards based on performance, obviously from an experience point of view, you would say he's at the bottom of the log, at the bottom of the
Yeah,
table.
I
But
think
from what
if
he
we
has
exclude,
done,
if we exclude,
experience.
pedigree and experience.
Yes, yeah, yes. Pedigree and experience, he still has to work on that. But from what he has done over the last 10 games on current form, I would say he would reflect the position of the table currently. And that would be, you're looking at Tuchel at the top, you're looking at Pep Guardiola second. I would say the table currently, the English Premier League table, reflects the ranking of the Premier League managers based on effort right now, because like I said, Tuchel at the top, Pep Guardiola second, and we have David Moyes, who deserves that third place.
Yeah,
He deserves that third place, and then Jurgen Klopp, and they are fourth, and then we can come in there fifth, and then Solskjaer is down in sixth. So I think that is how I'd rank him. I would mirror the standings in the Premier League table, because David Moyes has done a fantastic job. His team are also looking quite quite a formidable force to push out. But I think there are probably one or two injuries. If you take Mikel Antonio out of that squad, and you take Declan Rice out of that squad through injury, then they fall, and perhaps maybe Thomas Suchek. They do fold as West Ham. So I think they're probably one or two injuries away from finding their level, so to speak, out of the top six. But they've done a very commendable job, and they'll remain a challenge.
yeah, absolutely. So look, the Crankies have decided to back a manager, and surprisingly, they're backing a manager with no experience, with zero experience. Okay, with 1 or 2 years spent at Arsenal now, but do you think they're gonna keep this up? Because for me, the fact that they spent 156 million could have been the Super League, could have been the fact that there was a lot of pressure from Qatar and Daniel Ek. It could have been the fact that Arsenal's value was dropping. Do you think they are investing in him? They're backing him in a footballing sense, and do you think probably come January they'll give him a player in the summer, give him two players, and continue that rhythm of backing him and supporting him throughout his career at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that some Arsenal fans were are seeing that Arteta has Arsenal have failed to sack Arteta, or are really disappointed with the fact that Arteta has overstayed his welcome, is because I think the leadership of Arsenal, the board, and especially the Cronkies under Josh Kroenke, have faith in him. They support him, they back him. So it is going to take an incredibly woeful run of games, losing 10 straight in a row for him to be sacked, to be honest. But I do believe that they will back him. They have shown that they backed him. Arsenal, I don't remember a season. I don't think, well, I can't recall a season when Arsenal have been the top spenders in Europe, have
Yeah,
outspent
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Barcelona and Real Madrid, outspent the Premier League,
Yeah,
competition.
but that is also that is also for a couple of reasons. PSG, of course,
Yes,
now
yes, yes.
they do have the money limit. Barcelona cannot
Yeah,
spend
financial fair
5 million
play.
to bring in Xavi. Real Madrid are in
Yes,
the same
financial
problem field
challenges.
as well. Yeah, maybe
Yes, yes,
and Chelsea had spent a lot last summer, so I don't think they really needed
yes,
to splash the money around. But still, credit to
yes.
the
That's
Cronkies
true.
and credit to Arsenal as well.
Yeah, I think so. But you see, a lot of that money was is spent in building the foundation blocks for Arsenal. So we bought, we basically bought a new defense. If you think about it, with the exception of Gabriel, we bought a new defense,
Who's
and
who,
we
who is
tried to
who is
stabilize.
who is also a newbie, by the way. He's not that old at the team. Only 2 years.
Exactly,
Not yet even 2 years.
exactly. Not yet 2 years, yeah. So we bought more or less a new defense and defensive midfield, if you look at it, and so Arteta's team is starting to shape up, because the only other players who started, the last few games, or the first 11, as you might call it, if Partey is not injured, is the only two who are, not the players that Arteta's brought in. Like I said, the rest of the team, you will have some challenges where you bring in the likes of Runason here and there, and the likes of Willian. My goodness, Willian. I don't know, Willian. Willian was a Chelsea spy. I'm convinced. Him and Silvestri. I compare that to the time Silvestri came to Arsenal. I'll never forgive Wenger for that one. And Peter Cech as well. Although Peter Cech did put in, he was a bit more professional, put in a few good performances. But Willian has to be the flop of the century. I've never seen a player like that. But yes, so you will have one or two issues like that. But if you're giving him an assessment out of 100% for the transfers that he has brought in, the likes of Pablo Mari, some might forget, came in. He's a decent player, but he is a bench player, squad player, someone there to give us a bit of backup and not really the first team. But he has been, 90%. I would say he has done well, 90%. Okay, let me say 80, because Willian was quite something. It was a shocker. Yeah, so I think the board are going to back him. They will continue to back him. Maybe not in the January transfer window. Not much might occur. And it's not like we need, to be honest, we don't even look like we need
Much, yeah.
new players this season. Yeah, because in defense, you have Holding, you have Marie, you have Chambers, who sometimes I forget. Remember, you have Kolasinac, who is somehow still there. You have Maitland Niles, who is quite versatile, can play central defense, the right of defense, can play number 6. You have El Neni, who is still there. So I think the clear out will continue in next summer, because a lot of those players I've mentioned are going to be leaving.
And I think in
And of
January as
course,
well.
yeah,
I think January, that is when I mean, don't cancel their contracts, because we have already lost a lot of money in that. But we can try to to do some deals for these players, to see them out.
yeah, definitely. So I think he will next summer will add 2 or 3 players that will transform the Arsenal, and I think next season we're going to. But we need that. We need that, and we need to be ruthless next season, because Kosi, forget about Newcastle. Conte under Spurs
Yeah, they're
is
gonna
going to be a
spend the money.
problem.
Yeah, they're gonna spend the
Yeah,
money.
we have to spend. We have to spend the money to stay relevant.
I think they promised Conte around 200 million.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
next season.
Obviously, they have not been spending well. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So now he's been compared to Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger at the moment, best Arsenal manager for me. In my life. It's been as compared to Arsene Wenger, and Wenger's first games, 100 games, he had 51 wins, 31 draws, 18 defeats, and then the team had scored 157 goals. We've scored more goals under Mikel Arteta, 163. We've lost more games under Mikel. We've actually had more less draws, as compared to Arsene Wenger, and then we've won more games, 54 games actually, out of the first 100. Look, does this mean anything to you? Probably, can he, does that mean that he can follow into the footsteps of Arsene Wenger, or it is you just take them as two different, eras of football. The Arsene Wenger, who was dominant, then of course you had, I think Arsenal, at some point in time, before Chelsea and City became superpowers, you had Liverpool, you had Arsenal, and Manchester United. So that was the competition. But now with Arteta, at Arteta, it's another era of competition in football. Around 8 teams can win the league now, if they do their business right in the next 2 years. So look, he's been compared. I think the compare doesn't, the comparison doesn't make any sense for 100 games. But look, can he be that? Can he be that manager that stays for, at Arsenal for 10 years? If you look at him, can he build a system that can keep him at the club for 10 years? Like Klopp, if he loses, even if Klopp loses 5 games in a row, sacking him is not the first option, right? It's not the first option. So, do you think maybe it could be a long term successor for Sen?
Yeah, I do think if you compare the their first 100 games, Arteta coming on top on wins, but Wenger certainly with more positive outcome because he had much fewer losses and say a few more draws in there. But one thing Wenger had over Arteta at the time was that Wenger was experienced. He had coached at Monaco, he had coached at I think he had coached Strasbourg, one of his old teams that he used to
Yeah,
play for as
and
well,
Nagoya
and
Grampus State.
Nagoya Grampus, yes, in Japan. So you could argue that he had a lot more experience than Mikel Arteta from a managerial point of view. So I think it is what Arteta has achieved so far to date, considering the pressure he has been under, has been commendable. And I think with the backing that he has of the board and the owners, because Josh Kroenke, the son of the Arsenal owner, Silent Stan, as we like to call him, gave an interview to Sky Sports last week. He was in the country and attended the last game that we had. Mentioned that Arsenal is not for sale. Reiterated Arsenal is not for sale. And with regards to building the club and making it more ambitious and able to win trophies, he said we're just getting started. So this is the same guy who told us, 2 years ago to as Arsenal fans, get very excited, be very excited, and it shows that the Kroenkes are here to stay long term.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, yes, I think that revelation, because I always felt if Arsenal didn't sell now to Daniel Ek of Spotify and his consortium of legends, I felt Arsenal will not sell. They will not sell because things will only get better financially. We have come out of the worst period. Things are going to get better financially. And when that happens, our value will start to rise. And we have seen the investment in the last transfer window, right?
Uh,
So I think Arteta is going to stay. I think he's going to stay. And I think this season is actually going to be a big test for him.
yeah.
If he finishes 8th again, he's gone, despite the current trend of results.
Mm,
I think if he finishes in 6th place, wins a trophy, or just finishes in 6th place or 5th, I think they will back him some more and give him one more season. So it's a lot more competitive, like you said. You have 3 or 4 teams that can challenge for the title, genuinely challenge for the title. It's a bit different from the days of when Wenger joined, where Manchester United, maybe Blackburn Rovers, Liverpool was in there, Chelsea and Newcastle threatening at the time, I believe. But right now, it's a lot more competitive, and the new coaches that have come in, or the new managers that have been appointed in the last couple of weeks or so, have just turned the English Premier League into a super league of managers. If you think about it, the top 20, the managers from the top 20 teams have great caliber. So yeah, I think he's going to be here to stay. It's going to be a very exciting league, and the more every year that goes by, it gets more difficult.
mm,
He has to learn. He has to learn quicker. But I think because of the fact that he's starting to find a lot of balance in key areas, where now and a system, an identity has started to show up the last, let's say, 6 games or so. I know he hasn't lost in 10, but the last 6 games we're starting to see an identity, a style of player formation that we can't expect. Because you can now sit and predict who at least 10 or let's say 8 out of the starting 11 will be. We were unable to do that at the beginning of the season or even last season. We'll be like, who's going to play? Is it Pepe? Is it, and then alas, you find Chamberlain or what's his name, Chambers, playing in striking. But at least now you're able to see a good style of play developing under Mikel Arteta, and the team is a lot more assured. So I think he's here for the long run. This season
yeah.
is going to be assessed on a season by season basis.
Yes. season by season. So last question. I mean, we are running out of time. I thought we had a lot more time, but time can fly, especially when you're talking about Arsenal. Look, at this point in time, last year or last season, we were asking, when do you sack him? Right now, the question we're asking is, when do you give him a new contract at the moment? Do you wait at least for until the end of the season? Do you give it to him after January, or should we give him, the new contract after these 10 games? Does he deserve it? Do you think he's worked hard enough for it, for a new contract, probably a long term, contract to keep him secure?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't say he's under threat of going or being stolen. The likes of Barcelona went for Xavi, Hernandez, and Arteta's name was thrown in. We did see Arteta coming to comment that he's very excited and privileged to be the Arsenal manager at the moment. And I think based on his values, Spaniard, he's quite they're quite principled. You will not find. I'll give you an example. What Gerrard did, moving from Rangers to Aston Villa, you'll not find a Spanish manager doing. I mean, we just saw Unai Emery turning down Villarreal to move to Newcastle, despite the promise that Newcastle has, right? So there's just something about them. So I think the only way he'll be forced out is if his contract expires or if he's sacked. But he is not going to walk away. So, in my view, I think it would be great to wait until the end of the season, and as soon as we're done with the season, that following week should be the week we either sack him, which I doubt is going to happen, or we give him a new contract,
Okay.
because that will be that I think that will be a good time, because it does give him, it's not like he's Arsene Wenger, and the risk of him leaving destabilizes the team and things like that. Coaches with pedigree have that kind of influence, but Mr. Arteta there has the youngest squad in the league. A lot of them are inexperienced, and so will not feel jitters if he says, if there's a rumor starts circulating, or Arteta is wanted by Real Madrid or AC Milan, or something like that, or even Bayern Munich. So yeah, I'd wait the season out. I'd wait the season out. It's also a bit destabilizing for the team and the manager when contract talks start. That business starts coming up. So yeah.
And most of these players are his players. I think they believe in the project that he's building. So because at the moment it's more like project, it's more like emotional attachment, to the manager and what they are doing. So if you sack him, it would be a major setback. But listen, guys, I will have Mathew on back again. I can't record for more than an hour. But Mathew, his channel is going to be in the description and in the title. Make sure you do check him out. He has very great content, and you'll find me there on his channel when we discuss almost everything Premier League and everything weekend reviews. Mathew, one or two words for the fans, and then we can actually call it a show, which has been very interesting, by the way.
Yeah, brilliant. Kosi, thanks a bunch for having me on the show. I look forward to the next time I come back, and, keep on doing the great work you're doing out there. For those fans who would like to follow my content, you can look for Top 6 Fan TV down on YouTube. I'm sure, as Kosi mentioned, you see his channel in the description. You see my channel link in his description for this show. So get down there, like, subscribe, participate in the channel, and continue following Arsenal podcast.
All right, guys. Then we shall call it a show. I think just a little glitch in technology. Thanks everybody for watching. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you at 9 p.m.